I am Professor Zylervex, 3rd Dean of the Interstellar Military Academy, and I have spent the last 20 cycles evaluating species for admission into our prestigious institutions. In my long career, I have encountered countless remarkable beings. The Xylosians who could calculate quantum probabilities in their sleep. The Goran twins who spoke 73 languages before their third shedding. The Unity Collective that shared one consciousness across 20 bodies. But humans were supposed to be the primitive newcomers of the galaxy. At least that is what I believed until I watched the combat recording from Station Kalon. The file sat on my data pad for 5 days before I opened it. 5 days of ignoring the urgent tags, the priority markers, the 23 messages from Commander Rax telling me I needed to see this immediately. I had more important matters to attend to than watch another human struggle through basic combat protocols. We had accepted exactly 5 humans into the advanced tactical program at Centaurus Academy in the past decade, and 4 of them had washed out within the first semester. The 5th was currently sitting in my classroom. Her name was Alex Chen, and by every measurable standard, she was unremarkable. She sat in the back row, always the back row. Her test scores hovered around the median, never quite failing, but never excelling either. During combat simulations, she performed adequately, hitting 70% of her targets, completing objectives with minutes to spare, nothing more. She spoke rarely in class, and when she did, it was to ask clarification questions that made her seem, well, slow. Professor Vex, she had asked just last week, her hand raised tentatively, when you say tactical advantage, do you mean like having more weapons, or is it something else? I had sighed audibly. Several of my better students, including the prodigy Jackson from Vorn Prime, had snickered. Having more weapons is not necessarily a tactical advantage, Miss Chen, I had explained with barely concealed impatience. Tactical advantage refers to positioning, information superiority, and the ability to control the tempo of engagement. We covered this in week 2. She had nodded slowly, writing something down in her notebook. Right. So, it's like being smarter about where you are. More snickers. I had moved on. Now staring at this file marked urgent, classified for academic review only, I wondered if I had made a catastrophic error in judgment. I finally opened it. The recording was from a helmet camera, first-person perspective, grainy but functional. The timestamp indicated it was from 8 months ago during the Xylos incursion when a Forlag raiding party had hit one of our forward research outposts. The Forlag were not part of the Galactic Council. They were pirates, scavengers, exceptionally good at hit-and-run tactics. This particular raid had been expected to be routine. A small security team would repel them, file a report, and we would issue stern diplomatic warnings that everyone would ignore. Except the security team had been slaughtered in the first 3 minutes. What I was watching now was the aftermath. The voice on the recording belonged to Commander Rax himself, who had been part of the emergency response unit. His breathing was ragged, panicked. We have 15 hostiles, heavily armed, holding the research wing. They have 12 hostages, all civilian scientists. We are outgunned, outpositioned, and we have maybe 20 minutes before they execute everyone and blow the facility. I need options, and I need them now. There was a pause, then a voice I recognized immediately. Calm, almost bored. Commander, this is Private Chen. I can get them out. My dorsal ridge went rigid. Private Chen? Alex Chen was military. Chen, you're a student observer. You shouldn't even be here, Rax snapped. Get back to the transport. With respect, sir, you said you need options. I'm giving you one. I can extract all 12 hostages and neutralize the hostile force. Minimal. Casualties on our side, possibly 0 if I time it correctly. There was a long, tense silence on the recording. You're a first-year academy student, Rax said slowly as if explaining reality to a child. You've never seen combat. You'd be dead in 30 seconds. Sir, I have seen combat. Her voice was still calm, but something in it had changed, hardened. And I'm not asking for permission. I'm informing you that I'm going in. If you want to help, you can create a diversion at the north entrance in exactly 4 minutes. If not, stay out of my way. I could hear Rack sputtering, but the camera was already moving. Someone had switched to external surveillance feeds, and now I could see what happened next. Alex Chen, the girl who couldn't grasp basic tactical concepts, who barely passed her physical assessments, who asked questions that made her seem half asleep, was moving through the facility like liquid death. She had acquired a plasma rifle from somewhere, maybe a fallen guard, and she held it with the ease of someone who had been born with one in her hands. But that wasn't what made my respiratory system freeze. It was the way she moved. Humans are clumsy. This is a known fact. They trip over their own appendages. They misjudge distances. They lack the natural grace of species with proper sensory organs. Alex Chen moved like gravity had decided to take a personal interest in her success. She flowed around corners, slid under gunfire, vaulted over obstacles without breaking stride. The first foreleg guard never saw her coming. She dropped him with a single shot to the weapon arm, then closed the distance and delivered a strike to his neck that rendered him unconscious before he hit the ground. Non-lethal, precise, efficient. The second and third guards were together watching a corridor. She threw something, a small device, and when they turned to look, she was already behind them, disarming one and using his own weapon to stun the other, both down in under 4 seconds. I watched, my 3 eyes wide, as she systematically dismantled the entire raiding party. She used the environment. A door became a weapon when she slammed it into a charging foreleg. A broken pipe became a projectile that disabled a sniper. She predicted movements, set traps, manipulated the enemy into positions where they were vulnerable. And she did it all while moving toward the hostages with unwavering determination. When she reached the research wing, there were 5 foreleg left, all of them holding weapons on the terrified scientists. This should have been impossible. There was no angle of approach, no way to engage without the hostages getting caught in the crossfire. Alex Chen walked straight through the door. Not burst in, not snuck in. She just walked, hands visible, weapons slung across her back. "Hey there," she said, and her voice had returned to that sleepy, confused tone I knew from class. "I think I'm lost. This isn't the bathroom, is it?" The foreleg leader, a scarred veteran named Vorg, who I later learned had 23 successful raids to his name, stared at her. "You're military? I can smell it." "Me?" She laughed and it sounded genuine, confused. No, I'm just a student. I got separated from my group during the whole scary shooting thing. Super terrifying. By the way, you guys are really good at the terrorism." She was rambling, babbling like an idiot. And while she did, her eyes were moving, calculating, measuring distances and angles with a precision that made my blood run cold. "You think I'm stupid, human?" Vorg growled. "You think I'll just let you?" She moved. I had to watch it 3 times before I understood what happened. She grabbed a broken piece of ceiling panel that had been hanging by a wire, yanked it down to create a momentary shield, used that split second of distraction to pull a flashbang from her belt, threw it high so it would detonate above the hostages' heads, and then she was moving again, firing not at the foreleg, but at the structural supports of the shelving units behind them. The shelves collapsed. The flashbang went off. The foreleg were blinded, pinned, and disoriented. And Alex Chen was suddenly among them, disarming them with brutal efficiency, using their own weapons against each other, turning their formation into a chaotic mess where they couldn't fire without hitting their own people. 22 seconds. That's how long it took her to neutralize 5 armed hostiles while protecting 12 civilians. When it was over, she helped the scientists to their feet, checked them for injuries, and made a terrible joke about how she had definitely missed the bathroom. Then, Commander Rax and his team finally breached the facility, and she immediately became that slow, confused student. Again. "Oh, good. You're here," she said, sounding relieved. "I just kind of hid when things got crazy. I think those soldier guys took care of the bad guys, though. They went that way, I think." Rax had stared at her for a long moment, then at the unconscious foreleg, then back at her. "Private Chen," he had said slowly. "What exactly did you do before you enrolled at the academy?" "Oh, you know," she shrugged. "Stuff. Boring human stuff. Nothing interesting." The recording ended there. I sat in my office, my three eyes unfocused, my mind trying to process what I had just witnessed. Then I did what any rational being would do. I accessed Alex Chen's file, her actual military file, not her academy application. It took me 4 hours to get to clearance. When I finally saw it, I understood why Commander Rax had been so insistent that I watch the recording. Alex Chen was not a student. Well, she was, but that wasn't all she was. She was a decorated combat veteran from Earth's Special Operations Division. She had 17 confirmed solo extractions, 43 high-value target neutralizations, and a commendation list that would make most career officers weep with envy. She had been part of the Seoul Defense Force during the Titan Rebellions, the Martian blockade, and the Europa incident. She had skills and training that most species would consider physically impossible. And she was in my class pretending to be a mediocre student asking stupid questions about tactical advantage. Why? I found the answer in a note attached to her file written by a human admiral named Henderson. "Alex is one of our best, but she's been operational for 8 years straight. She needs a break, but she won't take one unless we make her." Enrolling her in the academy as a regular student was the compromise. She thinks she's there to rest and maybe learn something new. Don't tell her that we know she's incapable of being bad at anything. Let her have this. She earned it. I closed the file and sat back in my chair, feeling a strange mixture of awe, terror, and something that might have been respect. Tomorrow, Alex Chen would shuffle into my classroom, sit in the back row, and probably ask another question that made her sound like she had never held a weapon in her life, and I would have to pretend I didn't know that she could kill everyone in the room before we finished taking attendance. Humans, I was learning, were terrifyingly good at hiding their strengths. The question was, why did they feel the need to? I spent the rest of the evening reviewing the tactical maneuvers from the Xylo's recording, trying to understand how she had done what she did. Every move had been perfect, not just competent, but optimal, as if she had run simulations of every possible outcome and chosen the path with the highest success probability. But that level of combat awareness should not be possible. Not for a species that had only joined the galactic community 30 years ago. Not for a species that still used projectile weapons alongside energy rifles because they liked the way bullets felt more reliable. Humans were supposed to be the newcomers, the ones still figuring out how space travel worked. This was not a newcomer. This was an apex predator wearing a student uniform. And she had been sitting in my class for 4 months, letting me condescend to her, letting her classmates mock her, never once revealing what she was actually capable of. I pulled up the roster for my advanced tactical theory class. 28 students from 14 different species. Alex Chen was ranked 23rd in overall performance. 23rd. I looked at the top-ranked student, Jackson, the Vorn prodigy who never missed an answer and completed every simulation with textbook precision. He was good, truly good, possibly the best tactical mind I had taught in a decade. Against Alex Chen in actual combat, he would last maybe 15 seconds if she was feeling generous. My communicator chimed. A message from Commander Rax. "Did you watch it?" I sent back a simple affirmative. "Good. Now you understand why I need you to do something for me. There's going to be a joint training exercise in 2 weeks. Multi-species teams, live ammunition scenarios, command staff observing for recruitment purposes. I need you to put Chen on a team and push them into a crisis situation. I need to see what she does when she can't hide anymore." I typed back, "Why?" "Because we need to know if she can lead, not just fight. If she can, we have bigger plans for her. If she can't, then she gets her peaceful academy experience and we leave her alone. But I need to know." I stared at the message for a long time before I replied. This seems manipulative. It is, but she's too good to waste and too stubborn to admit she's bored. Sometimes you have to force people to accept their own potential. You in? I thought about Alex Chen sitting in the back of my class, hiding in plain sight, carrying the weight of skills and experiences that would crush most beings, all so she could have something resembling a normal life. Then I thought about the 12 scientists she had saved and the way she had done it with such casual brilliance that it seemed effortless. I'm in, I sent back. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, Alex Chen was going to face a situation where being mediocre would not be enough. And I was going to find out what a human looked like when they stopped pretending to be weak. The training exercise was scheduled for dawn, which on this planet meant the triple suns would cast shadows in 3 different directions and make depth perception a nightmare. Perfect conditions for chaos, which was exactly what Commander Rax wanted. I stood in the observation tower with the other instructors, watching the teams assemble below. 28 students divided into 7 squads of 4. Each squad a mix of species and skill sets. The scenario was simple on paper. Retrieve a data core from a fortified position. Extract it to a safe zone and do it all while opposing teams tried to stop you. Live rounds, real stakes, medical teams on standby. Alex Chen was on blue team with 3 other students I had selected carefully. There was Borak, a hulking Gorn with incredible strength but limited tactical flexibility. Next to him stood Zix, a tiny Vexen engineer who could hack any system but panicked under pressure. And finally, Lyra, a Mandari scout with excellent sensory capabilities, but a tendency to follow orders without questioning them. In other words, I had given Alex the most problematic team possible. A team that would need leadership, real leadership, not just competent soldiers following a plan. Jackson led Red Team naturally. He had the 3 best remaining students, all of them skilled, all of them coordinated. If this were a fair fight, Red Team would win in under 20 minutes. But I was not planning for this to be a fair fight. Alex stood with her team, looking confused, as usual. She was studying the map on her data pad, tilting her head like she couldn't quite figure out which direction was north. Borak kept glancing at her with barely concealed annoyance. So, what's the plan? Alex asked, her voice carrying that familiar uncertain lilt. Borak snorted. The plan is I go in first, break things, and you 3 try to keep up. Stay behind me, and don't get in my way. Oh, okay, Alex nodded. That sounds good. You seem really strong and stuff. Lyra rolled her eyes. Zix just looked nervous. The horn sounded. The exercise began. Red Team moved out immediately. Jackson directing them with precise hand signals. They formed a standard advancing formation, covering angles, moving with textbook efficiency. Beautiful to watch. Really. Blue Team stumbled. Borak charged ahead without waiting for coordination. Lyra tried to scout but kept having to double back because no one was following her directions. Zix froze at the first sound of gunfire even though it was 300 meters away. And Alex just sort of wandered along behind them looking lost. It was painful to watch. Commander Rax stood beside me, arms crossed. This was your plan? Put her with incompetence and hope she magically fixes them? Patience, I said, though I was starting to doubt myself. 15 minutes in, Blue Team had made almost no progress. They had gotten pinned down by Yellow Team, wasted ammunition, and were now trapped behind a broken wall with no clear exit strategy. Borak was yelling at everyone. Zix was on the verge of tears. Lyra kept suggesting retreat. And Alex sat with her back against the wall, fiddling with her rifle, looking completely checked out. Chin, Borak bellowed. Are you even paying attention? We're getting destroyed here. Huh? Alex looked up. Oh yeah, totally. This is really intense. You're doing great though. Super great leading and everything. We're not doing great. We're losing. Oh. She blinked. Are we? That's too bad. I watched Rax's face turn an interesting shade of purple. She's not engaging. This isn't working. But then I noticed something. While Alex appeared to be zoned out, her eyes kept tracking movements. Not the obvious ones, the enemy positions, the gunfire, but small details. The way the light reflected off certain surfaces, the rhythm of enemy fire patterns, the gaps in their coverage. She wasn't checked out. She was mapping everything. "Guys," Alex said suddenly, her voice still casual. "I think maybe we should try something different. Like, this whole hiding thing isn't really working right." "Obviously," Borek snapped. "But unless you have a brilliant plan, we're stuck." "Well, I don't know about brilliant," she scratched her head. "But I noticed that yellow team reloads every 47 seconds in a staggered pattern, which means there's a 2.3-second window where the left flank has reduced fire coverage. Also, there's a drainage pipe about 15 meters to our right. That connects to their position, and Zix could probably fit through it. And that abandoned vehicle at our 10 o'clock has reflective panels that we could use to create false movement if we angled them correctly." Everyone stared at her. "Also," she continued, still in that dreamy tone, "red team is about to flank yellow team from the north in approximately 90 seconds, which will distract them and give us an opening to advance. So, if we time it right, we could use the confusion to slip past both teams and get to the data core while they're fighting each other." Silence. "How do you know red team's position?" Lyra asked slowly. "Oh, I've been listening to their radio chatter. They're not using encryption, which seems like a mistake, but that's their problem." Alex smiled helpfully. "So, should we try my thing or do you want to keep doing the hiding plan?" "I'm fine with either. Honestly." Borek's mouth opened and closed several times. "You've been tracking enemy reload patterns, found an infiltration route, predicted enemy movements, and hacked their communications. All while sitting there looking like you were barely awake." "I mean, I wasn't really hacking. They just weren't secured. So, I was just listening, which is different." She paused. "Right. That's different, Chin," Zix said quietly. "What exactly are you?" "Tired mostly," Alex yawned. "And maybe a little hungry. Do we have snacks after this or is that later?" Up in the observation tower, I saw Rax lean forward, suddenly very interested. Borek shook his head like he was trying to clear water from his ears. "Fine, fine. We do it your way. What do you need from us?" "Oh, I don't need anything really," Alex stood up, brushing dust off her uniform. "You guys just stay here and look pinned down. I'll go get the data core and bring it back. Should take maybe 10 minutes, 15 if I get distracted." "By yourself?" Lyra's voice pitched up in disbelief. "There are 3 teams between us and the objective." "Yeah, but they're all focused on fighting each other, so they won't really notice me." She checked her rifle, made sure her gear was secure. "Unless you want to come, I can wait if you want to come." "This is insane," Borek muttered. But he didn't stop her. Alex Chen walked out from behind the cover like she was heading to the cafeteria. What happened next would later be taught in tactical courses across the galaxy as a master class in solo infiltration. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She just walked. But she walked in the spaces between attention. When yellow team looked left, she moved right. When red team advanced, she used their movement to mask her own. She read the battlefield like it was a children's book, simple and obvious to her, impossible for anyone else to comprehend. She reached the drainage pipe and slipped through it just as she had predicted, emerging directly behind yellow team's position. But instead of engaging them, she waited, counting silently until red team's attack came. The moment yellow team turned to face the new threat, she was past them, moving toward the fortified position holding the data core. The fortification was guarded by green team, for highly trained students with overlapping fields of fire, impenetrable, according to standard tactics. Alex pulled out her data pad and started typing. 30 seconds later, the fortification's lights began flickering. Then the automated defense turrets started spinning randomly. Then the doors locked, trapping green team inside their own position. Did she just hack the entire facility? One of the instructors beside me whispered. I thought she was a combat specialist, another replied. Alex walked up to the fortification, knocked on the door politely, and waved at the camera. Through the open comm channel, we could hear her speaking. Hey there, Green Team. Super sorry about this, but I kind of need the data core. And you're all locked in, which is really unfortunate. If you could maybe just slide it under the door, that would be amazing. No. Okay, that's fair. That's totally fair. She pulled something from her belt, a small device, and attached it to the door panel. So, this is an override key that'll unlock the door in about 5 minutes, which should give me enough time to be far away. You guys did great, though. Really excellent defensive positioning. Gold star effort for sure. The device beeped. The door's secondary lock disengaged. Alex opened it just wide enough to grab the data core from its pedestal, which somehow she had determined the exact location of, then closed it again and started jogging back the way she came. She made it 20 meters before Red Team spotted her. Contact. Single target with the objective. Jackson's voice was sharp, professional. All units converge. Red Team was good. They moved to intercept with precision, cutting off her escape routes, forcing her into a kill box where she would have no choice but to surrender or be eliminated. Alex stopped running. She stood in the open, holding the data core and sighed. Okay, she said, and her voice had changed. No more confusion, no more uncertainty, just calm, cold assessment. I really didn't want to do this. She threw the data core straight up high into the air, a perfect arc that would bring it down in exactly 8 seconds. Then she moved. Jackson fired. Missed. Alex was not where she had been. His teammate fired. Also missed. Alex had used a supply crate as a springboard, vaulting over their position entirely. The third teammate tried to track her movement. Couldn't. She was too fast, too unpredictable, flowing between obstacles like water. The fourth teammate, the smartest one, aimed where she was going to be. Alex changed direction midair, something that should have been physically impossible, twisting her body in a way that defied inertia, and the shot passed through empty space. She landed, rolled, came up right under the falling data core, caught it without looking, and was sprinting again before Red Team could reposition. How is she doing that? Jackson's voice cracked with frustration. She's human. They're supposed to be slow. But Alex wasn't slow. She was a nightmare wrapped in a student uniform, and watching her move was like watching physics decide to take a coffee break. She could have extracted then. The safe zone was clear. Blue Team's designated exit was open. She would have won. Instead, she stopped. Hey, Jackson, she called out, still in that casual tone. You're really good at this, you know, like textbook perfect tactics. Your instructors must be super proud. Jackson was reloading, trying to get a bead on her position. What are you doing, Chin? Just thinking about something my old commander told me. She stepped into view, completely exposed. He said that perfect tactics lose to adaptive strategy every single time. Want to know why? I really don't care right now. Because perfect tactics assume the enemy will follow the rules. She smiled, and it was not a nice smile. But the thing about humans, Jackson, is that we're really bad at following rules. She threw the data core again, but this time at Red Team, directly at Jackson. His instincts took over. He caught it. And in that split second where his hands were occupied, where his team was looking at him instead of their sectors, Alex moved through them like a ghost, disarming 2, stunning a third with a strike to a nerve cluster, and leaving Jackson standing there holding the data core with a stunned expression. Thanks for holding that, Alex plucked it from his hands. You're a real team player. Then she was gone, sprinting for the safe zone while Red Team tried to figure out what had just happened. Blue Team's extraction point was now contested. Yellow Team had recovered and moved to block it. Alex didn't slow down. She went straight through them. Not around, not over, through. using their own positions against them, turning their defensive formation into an obstacle course that she navigated with absurd ease. She was in and out before they could coordinate a response. When she crossed into the safe zone, the horn sounded. Exercise complete. Blue team wins. Alex sat down the data core, stretched, and looked genuinely surprised. Oh, we won. That's awesome. Great job, team. Borak, Lyra, and Zix were still back at their original position, having not moved an inch. In the observation tower, every instructor was silent. Commander Rax turned to me. 23rd in class ranking. Yes, 23rd. I'm aware of the irony. She just defeated 4 teams by herself, hacked military-grade security, and moved in ways that should require cybernetic enhancement. He paused. And she's ranked 23rd. She's very committed to the disguise. Down below, Alex was chatting with her confused teammates, apologizing for not including them more in the plan, asking if anyone wanted to get food because she was absolutely starving after all that light jogging. Jackson approached her, his expression complicated. Chen, who are you really? Oh, you know, she shrugged back to her usual vague tone. Just a student trying to learn stuff. You're really good though. Seriously, that intercept formation was super smart. You demolished us. Did I? I thought we were all just playing a fun exercise game thing. She smiled. Besides, you would have totally won if I hadn't gotten lucky with that drainage pipe. That was pure luck finding that. You calculated its location based on facility schematics that you memorized during the briefing. Did I? She looked genuinely confused. Huh? I don't remember that. Maybe I have a good memory for pipes. Is that weird? That might be weird. Lyra walked up, her sensory tendrils quivering. Alex, please stop. Lying. We all just watched you become someone completely different. What are you? For just a moment, Alex's expression shifted. The confusion dropped away, and underneath it was someone older, harder, infinitely more tired than any student should be. I'm someone who really wants to just be a regular student for a while, she said quietly. Can you guys maybe let me have that? The 3 of them looked at each other, then back at her. Your secret is safe with us, Borak said finally. But you're buying lunch for the rest of the semester. Deal, the confused smile was back. Do they have those weird noodle things in the cafeteria today? I love those noodle things. As they walked away together, Rax turned to me. So what? Can she lead? I thought about what I had just witnessed. Alex Chen had not just won the exercise. She had rewritten the parameters of what winning meant. She had adapted, improvised, and overcome impossible odds while making it look accidental. But more than that, she had given her team exactly what they needed, not orders, but confidence. They had watched her succeed, and now they believed they could, too. She can lead, I said. She just chooses not to most of the time. Why? Because leading means being visible, and being visible means she can't hide anymore. I watched Alex disappear into the facility, laughing at something Zix said. She's a weapon that wants to be a person, Commander. Can we really blame her for that? Rax was quiet for a long time. No, he said finally. I suppose we cannot. That evening, I found a note on my desk, handwritten, which was unusual in an age of digital everything. Professor Vex, thanks for a really fun exercise today. I learned a lot about teamwork and stuff. Also, I know you know what I am, and I'm guessing Commander Rax does too. I'm not mad or anything. You guys were pretty subtle about it. But if it's okay, I would really like to just finish the semester as a regular student. I'll try harder in class, ask fewer dumb questions, maybe move up to 20th in the rankings instead of 23rd. But please don't make me be special again. I've been special for a long time, and honestly, it's exhausting. Let me be mediocre for a while. I promise that if the galaxy actually needs me, I'll stop pretending. But until then, Can I just be Alex, the kind of slow human in the back row? Thanks. P.S. Your lecture on flanking maneuvers last week was actually really interesting, even though I already knew all of it. You're a good teacher. I read it 3 times, then filed it away in my personal archive. The next day, Alex Chen shuffled into class late, apologized profusely, and asked a question about supply line logistics that made her sound like she had never heard of mathematics. But now, when I looked at her, I saw what she really was. Not a mediocre student hiding her competence, but a warrior stealing moments of peace in a universe that had demanded too much from her for too long. And if that meant letting her rank 23rd in my class while she was actually the most dangerous being in the room, well, that seemed like a fair trade. After all, humans had taught the galaxy many things since joining our community. Tactical innovation, stubborn resilience, creative problem solving. But perhaps the most important lesson was this: strength that chooses gentleness is not weakness. It is wisdom. And Alex Chen, with her confused smiles and terrible questions, was the wisest person I had ever taught, even if she would never ever admit it. 2 months passed without incident. Alex continued her performance as a mediocre student, asking increasingly absurd questions in class and barely passing her exams. I found myself looking forward to her contributions, which always seemed to come at the most inopportune moments and always managed to derail my lectures in the most entertaining ways. Meanwhile, I continued my research into human military history, trying to understand how a species so seemingly primitive could produce individuals like Alex. What I discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. Humans had been fighting wars on their home planet for thousands of years before they ever achieved space travel. They had developed combat tactics and strategies that most other species would consider barbaric, yet were brutally effective. They had perfected the art of deception, misdirection, and psychological warfare. And they had done it all while evolving physically and mentally at an astonishing rate. The more I learned, the more I realized that humans were not newcomers to the galactic community. They were ancient warriors who had simply been late to the space party. And now they were here, with all their accumulated knowledge and experience, pretending to be the new kids on the block. It was the most audacious long-term deception I had ever encountered. The midterm examinations approached, and with them came the annual multi-species war games. This was a prestigious event where the top students from various academies competed in complex tactical scenarios. Winners often received immediate recruitment offers from elite military units and specialized government agencies. Normally, I would have selected Jackson to represent our academy without hesitation. But this year, I found myself in a difficult position. Commander Rex had been pressuring me to include Alex, arguing that her unique skills could give our academy an edge. But Alex had made it clear that she wanted nothing more than to continue her charade of mediocrity. The decision was taken out of my hands when the Academy Chancellor announced that this year's War Games would include a new component, a mystery challenge that would test the students' ability to adapt to unexpected situations. Each academy would be required to include at least one student who was not in the top 10 of their class rankings. For us, that meant Alex Chen was automatically selected. When I broke the news to her after class, she didn't react as I expected. There was no panic, no attempt to get out of it. She just nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. "Okay," she said simply. "Is there anything I can do to prepare?" "The scenarios are kept secret until the competition begins," I explained. "But they typically involve hostage rescue, data retrieval, or strategic position control. Your team will be informed of the specific objectives when you arrive at the facility." "And who will be on my team?" she asked. "Jackson will lead, of course. And Borak, Lyra, and Zix will round out the squad." She nodded again. "The same team from the training exercise?" "Yes." "Is that a problem?" "No, no problem," she said, but I thought I detected something in her voice. Resignation, perhaps? Or was it anticipation? The week before the War Games, Alex's behavior in class changed subtly. She still asked her usual ridiculous questions, but now they seemed to have a hidden purpose. Each question led to a discussion that revealed some tactical principle or strategy that might be useful in the upcoming competition. She was teaching her classmates without them even realizing it. Jackson, for his part, had become obsessed with defeating Alex. He spent hours analyzing the recording of the training exercise, trying to understand how she had moved, how she had anticipated every action. He had even requested additional training sessions with me, focusing on countering unconventional tactics. "She's not following any known combat doctrine," he complained during one of our sessions. "Her movements defy physics, her strategies make no logical sense, yet she wins every time." "Perhaps that's the point," I suggested. "Maybe the key to defeating her is to stop trying to predict what she'll do and focus on controlling the environment instead." He considered this for a moment. Control the environment. That's actually brilliant. "Thank you, Professor." I watched him leave, wondering if I had just given him the key to defeating Alex, or if I had inadvertently handed Alex exactly what she needed to ensure her team's victory. The day of the War Games arrived with an unusual tension in the air. The competition was being held at the prestigious Zephyr training facility, a state-of-the-art complex with holographic environments that could simulate any conceivable combat scenario. Academies from across the galaxy were represented, their students arrayed in colorful uniforms that denoted their species and institution. Our team arrived in standard-issue gray, which seemed fitting somehow. As the opening ceremonies concluded, the Academy representatives were called forward to receive their instructions for the Mystery Challenge. When it was our turn, Jackson stepped forward confidently, with Alex and the others following behind. The challenge director, a stern-looking Cygnian with metallic skin and glowing eyes, handed them a data pad. "Your objective is to retrieve the Zephyr crystal from the research facility at the center of this training ground," she explained. "The crystal is protected by multiple security systems and defended by automated drones. Additionally, you will be competing against the other teams, who will be trying to achieve the same objective. The first team to successfully extract the crystal to the designated safe zone wins." "Are there any restrictions on methods?" Jackson asked. "Aside from prohibited weapons and tactics listed in the official competition rules, you may use any means necessary to achieve your objective," the director replied. "However, be aware that the facility's security systems have been upgraded since last year's competition. Several teams attempted to breach them directly and were eliminated." "Understood," Jackson said, already studying the facility schematics on the data pad. As our team moved to the preparation area, I noticed Alex hanging back, seemingly uninterested in the planning. Instead, she was observing the other teams, her eyes moving methodically from one group to another. "Chin, are you even paying attention?" Borak grumbled. "We need to plan our approach." "Oh, I'm paying attention," Alex said, her voice distant. "Just to different things." Jackson looked up from the data pad, annoyed. "We don't have time for your usual nonsense, Chin. The competition starts in 10 minutes, and we need a coherent strategy." Right, strategy," Alex nodded, turning her attention to the data pad. "So, we're going in through the main entrance, disabling the security systems as we go, and fighting our way to the crystal." "That's the basic plan, yes," Jackson said. "With some modifications based on the other team's likely approaches." "And how many teams are there?" Alex asked. 16 total, including us," Lyra replied. "All from different academies." "And they all have the same objective?" "Yes." "And the first team to extract the crystal wins?" "Correct." Alex was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "So, it's a race," she said finally. "With obstacles?" "Essentially, yes," Jackson said, clearly impatient. "Now, if you're done stating the obvious, we need to finalize our approach." "I have a question," Alex said. "What if we don't go for the crystal?" Everyone stared at her. "What do you mean?" Jackson asked slowly. "I mean, what if we let someone else get the crystal, and then we take it from them on their way to the safe zone?" "That's actually not a terrible idea," Zik said thoughtfully. It would conserve our resources and allow us to observe the security systems in action before engaging. But it assumes we can successfully intercept whoever gets the crystal, Boric countered. And that we can do it without getting eliminated by other teams. Both valid concerns, Alex nodded. But consider this, the crystal itself is probably heavy and awkward to carry. Whoever retrieves it will be slowed down and more vulnerable. And if we position ourselves correctly, we can control the extraction route and dictate the terms of engagement. Jackson was silent, considering this. It was a fundamentally different approach from his usual methodical planning. It relied on deception and opportunism rather than direct confrontation. It's risky, he said finally. But it might work. How would we position ourselves? Alex smiled slightly. I have a few ideas. The competition horn sounded, signaling the start. As the other teams rushed toward the facility, our team moved in the opposite direction, toward a series of maintenance tunnels that connected to the main complex. Are you sure this is the right way? Lyra asked, her sensory antennae twitching nervously. Pretty sure, Alex replied confidently. If the facility schematics are accurate, and if the maintenance access hasn't been upgraded since last year's competition, these tunnels should lead us directly to the extraction route. And if the schematics are wrong? Boric grumbled. Then we'll be completely lost and eliminated from the competition. Positive thinking, Boric, Alex patted his massive arm. Positive thinking. The tunnels were dark and cramped, a stark contrast to the gleaming corridors of the training facility above. As they moved deeper into the complex, they could hear distant sounds of combat, energy weapons firing, explosions, the occasional shout. The other teams have engaged the security systems, Jackson noted. As expected. And probably each other, Alex added. Which works in our favor. They emerged from the tunnels into a service corridor just as a team from the Orion Academy rounded the corner, carrying the Zephyr crystal and a specialized containment unit. The Orion team was composed of 4 massive reptilian beings, each heavily armed and armored. They stopped when they saw our team, their weapons immediately coming to bear on us. Stand down, their leader hissed. The crystal is ours. We don't want the crystal, Jackson said, holding up his hands in a gesture of peace. We just want to pass. The Orion leader considered this for a moment. Why should we believe you? Because if we wanted the crystal, we would have attacked by now, Alex said calmly. And because we're not armed as heavily as you are. It would be a stupid fight to pick. Humans are known for doing stupid things, one of the other Orion team members growled. True, Alex acknowledged with a shrug. But we're also known for being practical. And right now, it's more practical for us to let you pass and continue to the safe zone. The Orion team exchanged glances, clearly uncertain. This wasn't how the competition was supposed to go. Teams were supposed to fight for the crystal, not casually let each other pass. How do we know you won't follow us? Their leader asked. You don't, Alex replied honestly. But you also don't know that another team isn't waiting up ahead to ambush you. So you can either waste time arguing with us, or you can keep moving and hope you reach the safe zone first. The Orion team hesitated for another moment, then decided to continue on their way, watching our team warily as they passed. As soon as they were out of sight, Alex motioned for our team to follow. What was that about? Boric whispered. Why did you let them go? Because they're not the real threat, Alex explained. The real threat is the team from the Andromeda Academy. They're probably waiting for the Orion team at the extraction point. How do you know that? Lyra asked. Because I've been watching them during the preparation phase, Alex replied. They were the only team not rushing toward the facility. They were studying the extraction routes and setting up ambush positions. Classic predator behavior. So we're letting the Orion team do the hard work of getting past the Andromeda team? Jackson realized. Exactly, Alex smiled. Then we'll take the crystal from whoever is left standing. They continued through the service corridors, Alex leading with an unerring sense of direction that seemed almost supernatural. As they approached the extraction route, they could hear the sounds of intense combat ahead. The Andromeda team has engaged the Orion team, Jackson noted. As predicted. Now we wait, Alex said, finding a concealed position where they could observe the confrontation without being seen. The Andromeda team was composed of 4 tall, slender beings with multiple limbs and advanced energy weapons. They moved with a fluid grace that was both beautiful and deadly. The Orion team, despite their size and strength, was clearly outmatched. Within minutes, 2 of the Orion team members were down, and the remaining 2 were forced to take cover behind the crystal containment unit. Surrender, the Andromeda team leader called out. There's no shame in admitting defeat. The Orion team members exchanged glances, then slowly lowered their weapons. The crystal is yours, their leader said reluctantly. We yield. As the Andromeda team moved to secure the crystal, Alex gave a subtle signal to our team. Now, she whispered. They emerged from their concealed position, weapons ready. The Andromeda team, caught by surprise, tried to react, but our team was already moving. Jackson and Borak provided covering fire while Lyra used her sensory abilities to identify weak points in their armor. Zix deployed a series of electronic countermeasures that disrupted their communications and targeting systems. And Alex moved through the chaos like it was a choreographed dance. She seemed to be everywhere at once, disarming one opponent, disabling another, creating openings for her teammates to exploit. Within 30 seconds, the Andromeda team was neutralized, and our team had control of the crystal. That was impressive, Jackson admitted, breathing heavily. Your plan actually worked. Phase 1 of the plan, Alex corrected, already moving toward the extraction point. We still have to get the crystal to the safe zone. As they approached the extraction point, they could see other teams converging on their position. The competition was far from over. We can't make it, Borak said grimly. There are too many of them. We don't have to make it, Alex replied, a strange light in her eyes. We just have to make them think we're making it. She quickly modified the crystal containment unit, attaching a small device to it. What's that? Zix asked. A transmitter, Alex explained. It's broadcasting a signal that mimics the crystal's energy signature. I've set it to send out a pulse every 30 seconds. So they'll think we still have the crystal even after we've hidden it? Lyra realized. Exactly, Alex nodded. Now, who's the fastest runner here? That would be me, Borak said proudly. Good, Alex handed him the modified containment unit. I want you to run in that direction, she pointed toward a distant ridge. Make as much noise as possible. Draw as much attention as you can. And what will the rest of us be doing? Jackson asked. We'll be taking the real crystal to the safe zone, Alex replied, removing the actual crystal from the containment unit and securing it in a small pouch on her belt. The long way around. As Borak charged off in the opposite direction, drawing the attention of several teams, Alex led the rest of the group through a series of narrow passages and concealed pathways that weren't on any of the official maps. How do you know about these routes? Jackson asked, genuinely curious. I have a good sense of direction, Alex replied vaguely. And I spent some time exploring the facility during the preparation phase. Just in case. They emerged near the safe zone, which was surprisingly quiet. Most of the other teams were chasing Borak, who was doing an excellent job of leading them on a wild goose chase. It worked, Lyra whispered in amazement. It actually worked. Don't celebrate yet, Alex cautioned, her eyes scanning the area. There's still one team that didn't take the bait. As if on cue, 4 figures emerged from the shadows near the safe zone. They were from the Centauri Academy, known for their analytical approach and strategic thinking. Their leader, a tall being with large, multifaceted eyes, stepped forward. An impressive deception, she said, her voice calm and measured. But ultimately futile. We knew you wouldn't risk carrying the crystal yourself. Then you know we have it, Jackson replied, positioning himself between the Centauri team and Alex. And you know we're not giving it up without a fight. We have no desire to fight you, the Centauri leader replied. We propose a compromise. What kind of compromise? Alex asked, stepping forward. A race, the Centauri leader said. You and me, one-on-one. The first to touch the safe zone wins for their team. The crystal stays here, under guard by the remaining members of both teams. Alex considered this for a moment. It was a reasonable proposal, and it minimized the risk of injury to both teams. Agreed, she said. But I have one condition. And that is? No weapons, no special equipment. Just pure speed and agility. The Centauri leader seemed surprised by this condition, but quickly recovered. Agreed, she said with a slight smile. This should be interesting. The two competitors positioned themselves at an equal distance from the safe zone, which was marked by a glowing circle on the ground. The remaining team members stood guard over the crystal, watching tensely. On my mark, one of the competition officials called out. 3, 2, 1. Go! Both competitors shot forward, moving with incredible speed. The Centauri team member was built for speed, her long legs covering ground rapidly. Alex, by contrast, seemed almost clumsy in comparison, her movements less fluid, less efficient. But she was keeping pace, somehow matching her opponent stride for stride. As they approached the safe zone, it became clear that it would be a close race. The Centauri competitor had a slight edge, but Alex was closing the gap. Then, just as they were about to reach the safe zone, Alex stumbled, seemingly losing her balance. The Centauri competitor, seeing her advantage, surged forward, certain of victory. But the stumble was a feint. As the Centauri competitor reached for the safe zone, Alex recovered with impossible speed, changing direction in midair and touching the ground inside the circle a split second before her opponent. Our team wins, Alex said, breathing heavily but smiling. The Centauri competitor stared in disbelief, then slowly nodded. A clever deception at the end, she acknowledged. Well played. As the competition officials confirmed our team's victory, the other teams began to arrive, having realized they had been tricked. There were some grumbles and complaints, but ultimately, everyone acknowledged that our team had won fair and square. During the award ceremony, the Academy Chancellor singled out our team for special recognition. Your innovative approach to this challenge demonstrates the kind of creative thinking that the Interstellar Military Academy aims to foster, she said, presenting each team member with a medal. You have done your institution proud. As the ceremony concluded, Commander Rax approached our team. Excellent work, he said, his eyes resting on Alex. All of you. Thank you, sir, Jackson replied formally. It was a team effort. Indeed it was, Rax nodded. But I have a feeling that some members of the team contributed more than others. Alex shifted uncomfortably under his gaze. I just did what was needed, she said quietly. As did we all, Rax replied with a slight smile. As did we all. That evening, there was a celebration in our team's honor. Most of the Academy attended, including many of the instructors and even the Chancellor. Alex, as usual, positioned herself in a corner of the room, nursing a drink and watching the proceedings with a detached air. I approached her cautiously, not wanting to intrude on her privacy. Enjoying the celebration? I asked. It's nice, she replied with a small smile. Everyone seems to be having a good time. They're celebrating your victory, I said. Our victory, she corrected gently. I couldn't have done it without the team. And yet, your contributions were unique, I said carefully. The deception with the crystal, the hidden routes, the final feint during the race. Those were all your ideas, weren't they? She was quiet for a moment, considering her response. Some of them, she acknowledged finally. The rest were collaborative efforts. You're being too modest, I said. You orchestrated that entire competition from start to finish. Orchestrated is such a strong word, she replied with a slight laugh. I just saw opportunities and took them. That's what tactical brilliance is, I insisted. Seeing opportunities that others miss and having the courage to act on them. She was quiet again, her expression unreadable. Can I ask you something, Professor? Of course. Why do you care so much? She asked, her voice quiet but intense. Why does it matter to you whether I'm mediocre or exceptional? I considered my response carefully. Because I've spent my career teaching tactical theory, I said finally. I've studied every known combat doctrine, every strategic principle. And I thought I understood what was possible. Then I met you, and you've shown me that there are possibilities I never even imagined. I'm not that special, she insisted. Aren't you? I countered. You defeated 16 teams from the most prestigious academies in the galaxy, using tactics that defied conventional wisdom. You did it without revealing your true capabilities, without even trying that hard. What could you accomplish if you actually applied yourself? She was silent for a long time, her gaze distant. More than I want to, she said finally, her voice barely audible. Much more. Before I could respond, Jackson approached us, his expression uncharacteristically hesitant. Chen, can I speak with you for a moment? Of course, Alex replied, turning her attention to him. I wanted to apologize, he said, looking uncomfortable. I've been competitive with you. Focused on defeating you rather than learning from you. That was foolish. You're a brilliant tactician, Jackson, Alex replied gently. You don't need to learn from me. I do, he insisted. Your approach to the competition, it was unlike anything I've ever seen. It was adaptive, creative, unpredictable. Everything I'm not. You're methodical, precise, reliable, Alex countered. Those are valuable traits too. But they weren't enough today, he said. Your approach was better. Different doesn't always mean better, Alex replied. It just means different. Still, he persisted, I'd like to learn more about your methods. If you're willing to teach me. Alex seemed surprised by this request, but quickly recovered. I'm not sure I have methods to teach, she said with a slight smile. But I'm happy to study with you sometime. Compare notes. I'd like that, Jackson said, genuinely pleased. I'd like that a lot. As he walked away, Alex turned back to me, a thoughtful expression on her face. See, she said quietly. That's why I do it. Do what? Pretend to be mediocre, she explained. Because if I had shown my true capabilities from the beginning, Jackson would never have approached me like that. He would have seen me as a rival to be defeated, not as a colleague to learn from. By being mediocre, I created an opportunity for genuine connection and mutual growth. I was stunned by this revelation. Her mediocrity wasn't just a disguise, it was a strategic choice designed to foster collaboration rather than competition. That's incredibly insightful, I managed to say. Humans have a saying, she replied with a wistful smile. Catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Sometimes, the most effective way to lead is by making others think they're not being led at all. With that, she excused herself and moved to join her teammates, who were laughing and sharing stories of the competition. I watched her go, marveling at the complexity of the being I had once dismissed as merely human. The following weeks brought a subtle shift in the dynamics of our classroom. Alex continued her performance as a mediocre student, but now there was an undercurrent of awareness among her classmates. They still laughed at her seemingly absurd questions, but now there was a knowing quality to their laughter. They still outperformed her in exams and simulations, but now they sought her input during strategic discussions. Jackson, in particular, made a point of partnering with Alex during team exercises, much to the confusion of some of the other students. Why do you keep choosing Chen for your team? One of them asked during a break. She's ranked 23rd in the class. Because she sees things the rest of us miss, Jackson replied calmly. And because she makes us better by forcing us to look at problems from different angles. This newfound respect for Alex's abilities created a tension that I found fascinating to observe. On the one hand, Alex was still committed to maintaining her cover as a mediocre student. On the other hand, her classmates were increasingly aware of her true capabilities and were struggling to reconcile this knowledge with her continued performance. The situation came to a head during a final exam simulation that pitted our class against a sophisticated AI opponent designed to test their tactical decision-making under pressure. The simulation was set in an urban warfare environment, with our class tasked with rescuing hostages from a building defended by the AI. As usual, Jackson took command, organizing the class into assault teams and establishing a clear plan of attack. Alex, as usual, positioned herself at the periphery, seemingly content to follow orders and contribute minimally. The initial phase of the operation went smoothly, with the assault teams successfully breaching the building and neutralizing the outer defenses. But as they approached the central area where the hostages were being held, they encountered unexpectedly heavy resistance from the AI, which had adapted to their tactics and was now countering their every move. "We're pinned down," one of the team leaders reported over the comms. "The AI has anticipated our approach and set up kill zones at every possible entry point." "Fall back and regroup," Jackson ordered calmly. "We need to reassess our approach." As the teams fell back to their previous positions, casualties mounting, the mood in the command center grew tense. This was supposed to be a straightforward operation, but the AI was proving to be a more formidable opponent than anticipated. "We could try a frontal assault," one of the team leaders suggested. "Throw everything we have at them and overwhelm their defenses." "Too risky," Jackson countered. "We'd take unacceptable casualties, and we might still fail to rescue the hostages." "What about a diversion?" another suggested. "Draw their fire while a small team sneaks in from the rear." "The AI would anticipate that," Jackson shook his head. "It's probably already secured all possible approaches." As the debate continued, with each proposal being systematically rejected as either too risky or too predictable, Alex spoke up for the first time during the operation. "What if we don't go in at all?" she asked, her voice quiet but cutting through the discussion. Everyone turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" Jackson asked. "I mean, what if we find a way to get the hostages to come to us?" she suggested. "How would we do that?" one of the team leaders asked skeptically. "The AI is controlling the building systems. If we could somehow override its control of the ventilation system, we could pump in a harmless sedative that would incapacitate the hostiles but leave the hostages unharmed." "That's actually not a bad idea," Zix spoke up. "I might be able to hack into the building's environmental controls if I can get close enough to the main access point." "But the AI would anticipate that," Jackson countered. "It's probably guarding the access points heavily." "Not if we create a distraction big enough to draw its attention elsewhere," Alex suggested. "Like what?" "Like surrendering," she said quietly. The room fell silent. "Surrendering?" Jackson repeated, incredulous. "How would that help?" "The AI's programming is focused on eliminating threats and preventing the rescue of the hostages," Alex explained. "If we signal our surrender and begin evaluating the area, it might lower its guard, focusing on containment rather than active defense. That would create an opportunity for Zix to access the environmental controls." "It's risky," Jackson considered. "The AI might see through the deception." "It's a risk," Alex acknowledged. "But is it riskier than continuing to throw our teams against defenses that have already proven to be impenetrable?" Jackson was silent for a long moment, weighing the options. The conventional tactical approaches had failed, and casualties were mounting. Alex's proposal was unorthodox, but it offered a potential solution where none existed. "Do it," he said finally. "Signal our surrender and begin a tactical withdrawal. Zix, prepare to access the environmental controls. The rest of you, be ready to move on my signal." As the fake surrender was initiated, with teams visibly beginning to withdraw from the area, the AI's behavior changed as predicted. Its active defenses became less aggressive, focusing more on containment than engagement. This was the opportunity Zix needed. "I'm in," she reported over the comms. "The environmental controls are under my command. Pumping sedative into the central area now." Within minutes, the AI-controlled hostiles in the central area began to collapse, incapacitated by the sedative. "The hostages are secure," one of the team leaders reported. "All hostiles neutralized. We're bringing them out now." As the operation concluded successfully, with all hostages rescued and minimal casualties, the mood in the command center was one of stunned relief. No one could quite believe that an operation that had seemed doomed to failure had been salvaged by such an unconventional approach. "That was brilliant," Jackson said to Alex, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "I never would have thought of that." "It was just an idea," Alex replied with a shrug. "A good one," he insisted. "More than good. It saved the operation." As the simulation ended and the class began to disperse, I approached Alex, who was once again trying to blend into the background. "That was quite impressive," I said. "You saved the operation." "We saved the operation," she corrected gently. "You came up with the key insight," I countered. "You saw a solution that no one else even considered." "I just asked a different question," she replied with a slight smile. "Everyone else was asking how we could get in. I asked how we could get the hostages out." "And that's what makes you exceptional," I said. "Your ability to reframe problems, to see possibilities that others miss." She was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "Can I tell you something, Professor?" "Of course." "Before I enrolled here, I spent 8 years in special operations," she said quietly. 8 years of solving problems with violence and deception. 8 years of being the person who could always find a way, no matter how impossible the situation seemed. She paused, her gaze distant. "Do you know what that does to a person? To always have to be the one with the answers, the one who can't fail?" I shook my head, not trusting myself to speak. "It's exhausting," she continued. "It's a weight that never lifts, a responsibility that never ends. That's why I came here. Not to learn how to be better at solving problems, but to learn how to be okay with not having all the answers." "And have you learned that?" I asked. "I'm trying," she replied with a wistful smile. "Every day, I'm trying." As the semester drew to a close, I found myself reflecting on the lessons Alex had taught me, both intentionally and unintentionally. She had shown me that true leadership wasn't about being the strongest or the smartest person in the room. It was about creating an environment where everyone could contribute their unique strengths, where even the quietest voice could be heard when it had something valuable to say. She had demonstrated that sometimes the most effective way to solve a problem was to change the problem itself, to reframe it in a way that revealed new possibilities. And she had reminded me that behind every seemingly ordinary exterior, there might be an extraordinary story waiting to be discovered. On the final day of class, as I was packing up my materials, Alex approached me hesitantly. "Professor Vex?" she asked. "Yes, Alex?" "I just wanted to thank you," she said. "For everything." "You don't need to thank me," I replied. "I should be thanking you. You've taught me more than I've taught you." "I don't know about that," she smiled. "But I have appreciated your patience and understanding. It meant a lot to me." "It was my pleasure," I said sincerely. "What will you do now? Will you continue your studies here?" "I think so," she nodded. "If the Academy will have me. I'd like to finish what I started." "I'm sure the Academy would be delighted to have you," I assured her. "And if you ever need anything, academic or otherwise, please don't hesitate to ask." "Thank you, Professor," she said with genuine warmth. "I'll keep that in mind." As she turned to leave, I had one more question. "Alex, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Will you ever stop pretending to be mediocre?" She considered this for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "I don't think it's pretending anymore," she said finally. I think I'm learning to embrace the parts of me that are just ordinary. The parts that don't have all the answers, that make mistakes, that need help sometimes." She smiled slightly. "Maybe that's the real lesson I needed to learn." With that, she walked out of the classroom, leaving me to ponder the profound wisdom of her words. Humans, I was learning, were far more complex and fascinating than I had ever imagined. And Alex Chen, with her desire to be ordinary despite her extraordinary capabilities, was perhaps the most human of them all. As I prepared to leave for the break, I found myself looking forward to the next semester, to the lessons Alex would undoubtedly teach me, not through her exceptional abilities, but through her embrace of her ordinary humanity. And in that moment, I understood the true genius of her approach. By choosing to be ordinary, she had become truly extraordinary.